Well, hello there. This is Virtuals the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. I've got a really interesting game today against a sort of new Ukrainian friend and subscriber. We played this game, and one of the things in our discussion afterwards was that they had probably quite a different way of approaching learning how to play chess than myself. They had sort of gone through quite a lot of books and information about theory, so opening lines, while I tend to not focus so much on theory and focus much more on the ideas that underlie a particular opening in certain positions, for example, with the openings that I play. And I think this game actually demonstrates some of the potential advantages in the way I do things compared to my Ukrainian friend. Let's go take a look. So I had the white pieces in this game, and so as usual, I play e4. e4 is usually what I play. And they played a rather unusual opening, the Nimzowitsch Defense, the immediate knight c6. So this is relatively suboptimal. I suppose it's completely fine. It's a sort of a hyper-modern system where you use pieces rather than pawns to try to control the center. Now, here I don't know any theory whatsoever. And from my perspective, probably the most logical thing to do here would be, of course, to take the full center with pawns. So, opening principle, if you can take the full center with pawns, you should probably do so. However, of the very little that I know about the Nimzowitsch, I knew that this was probably going to be the main line, and my opponent, who knows a lot of theory, who played this, of course, probably would know better than me. So here I had other options. And so one of the things I thought is, look, I'm going to try to see whether or not I can transpose this into something I know. So for example, the Vienna Game or maybe the Vienna Gambit. And this potentially really works, I think, in the beginner intermediate level. So knight c3. So Vienna setup. So if they now play e5, this would be the max Lange Defense to the Vienna Game, which interestingly enough on evaluation is in fact black's best move. So here, I wonder whether or not they weren't expecting this. And I don't think this is, in fact, the most common move after the Nimzowitsch Defense. I think the most common moves, as I said, are d4 and potentially the king's knight. So here, they play the other knight. Again, probably somewhat suboptimal. And again, the best move for me is to take the full center. But now I decide to double down. I'm trying to transpose into a Vienna. The two knights here, we can try to do a Vienna Gambit. So f4. So this is technically an inaccurate move according to Stockfish. It goes to 0, 0, 0 in fact. However, it looks a little bit scary for black, doesn't it? Because e5 and the knight is potentially in some trouble. And so I thought, look, I'm sure they're probably out of theory. This cannot be a common response. And so they're going to be thinking maybe they need to play e5 to prevent my own e5. And that's what my opponent did. So I baited them into playing e5. Their best move was d5, very similar to the Vienna Game main line. And here, for those of you who know the Vienna Game, this is equivalent to the Vienna Gambit declined with knight c6. So the usual way this comes up would be e4, e5, Vienna Game, and then the Folkbier, Vienna Gambit, and then decline with the knight. And those of you who know the Vienna Gambit will know that this is a mistake. This is about plus 1.5. It's basically a straight up mistake. But in this game, we reached here via a different approach, so with the Nimzowitsch. So there, Vienna Gambit-like move, baiting the e5, and there we go. We now have transposed, as I said, into the Vienna Gambit, declined with knight c6. And the reason why it's bad is because I can just take. So take, attacking, they have to take back, and now the d4, chasing the knight again. Knight now has to go, and now e5, punching the knight again. So knight pretty much forced to go back to its home square, and basically knight preventing queen h4 with check, and consider the position. Those of you who know Vienna Gambit will know that this is very, very winning for white because I've got the full center with my pawns, I'm developed, knight slightly odd position, nothing else developed. So that was potentially their best move. I think maybe they were trying to defend the g5 square, which I suppose makes some sense, but that is a mistake. They needed to develop. Okay, they need to develop. When you're down, you need to develop. And here, of course, bishop to c4, because the idea is trying to attack the f7 pawn, trying to make use of the semi-open f file. So these are tactical ideas about the Vienna game and Vienna Gambit. You can reach this through many different potential different lines. And here it's the line and it's the idea more than the theory, the specific lines, which are important. So here they needed to block that attack on the f7, but this is a fairly common logic. We now short castles 1, 2, potentially 3. The queen can potentially attack down as well. So very, very powerful. They now try to pin. So again, a logical sort of move. Now, what I need to do from a tactical perspective, I want to potentially sacrifice the bishop, very common tactical idea, and then when they take back with the king, there's a potential double check, discovered attack on the bishop. So to do that, I need to have potentially that square, the e5 square, available for my knight, because at the moment it doesn't quite work because that square is defended, which means after all the captures, I don't particularly want them capturing the knight and then opening the h file. So capture. They now capture back with the bishop, seems to make sense, but you can see Stockfish says they needed to defend f7. And now, one of my favorite tactical maneuvers in the Vienna, which I just covered before, bishop captures, brilliant move. With check, king takes back, and now knight jumps forward, double check, makes the impossible possible, knight gives a check into a defended square, yet it can't be taken, knight is unpinned, and the bishop that was, trying to attack the queen is in itself now attacked. So double check, king forced to move, queen now captures the bishop with an attack on the knight. Knight captures knight, that makes sense, take back, and this looks very, very bad for black. They give a check, sure, move the king out of the way, and here they wanted to potentially stop my queen moving forward, so they pushed that pawn to g5, but tactically that's a mistake because it weakens these light squares, which are already very weak. And you look at this, fully open f file, almost open e file, pretty much an open d file. King completely stuck in the center. Here I've got queen to h5 with check. The king now has only two legal moves, either here or here. If the king comes here, that is mate. So everything is covered. As you can see, everything is covered for the king. So that's mate in one. So the king has to come here, and look at this. King and queen on the same file. Rook to d1, skewering the king against the queen. Emotional damage. Our opponent resigns. Good game. GG. The big takeaway from this game is that learning opening theory is a useful practice. However, at the beginner intermediate level, it can only take you so far. Most games will deviate from the lines that you learn in opening theory within a few moves. It is understanding the position, the opening, the tactical and strategic ideas of the opening that will allow you to capitalize on the openings that you study. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.